870 BC, roving bands of white tribes, all sharing a common genetic ancestry, roamed free all over the vast Eurasian landmass. They could have coalesced into an imperium, assuring peace and harmony for eons. Instead, they fragmented and went their separate ways, eventually forming the various city-states. This lack of unity and common purpose gave way to rivalries and fratricides. Then came Rome. As the city-states succumbed to the might of the Roman Empire, even more appalling fratricides of whole ethnicities followed. The emergence of the nation-states relatively of late, artificial lines on the map drawn by drunken dukes and princes, did nothing to harmonize and unite us. Instead, this assured easier control over larger populations and territories by the hidden hand. Nationalism grew, yes, but so did rivalries. The hidden hand used nationalism as its best weapon, setting countries and empires against each other. An increasingly mechanized warfare assured ever higher numbers of casualties, culminating in the heartbreaking examples of World War I and World War II. The latest and greatest of fratricidal follies, brother against brother, leaving millions of Europeans dead. The end result of these senseless conflicts has led to defeatism, dejection and despair amongst Europids. A lack of confidence and pervading confusion throughout. A lack of a unifying purpose. The prime cause of this age-old suffering is becoming more evident today. We are at a threshold, a critical point, a defining moment in our long history. We, the white race, soon a mere 5% of the world's population and declining fast. How can we be assured of progress under these conditions? Unless there's a radical change in direction, there remains only one logical outcome: the very extinction of this biological aristocracy that gave the world everything. Thus, leaving the custody of our Gaia in the irresponsible hands of ruthless thugs and psychopaths. At this late hour, there still remains only one unifying idea, like a magnet drawing, bonding and rooting all Europeans together: Imperium Europa. To further elucidate this emerging idea, one must fully grasp the current global situation, now explained. At the very mention of the word Imperium, one might immediately think of a sole and selfish emperor lording over his struggling and subservient populace. So it is reasoned out that the so-called democratic system, apparently granting opinions and freedom of choice in every election, gives the individual the illusion of better control over his life and his country's future. As a result, the responsibilities and aspirations of the individual are passed on to the bureaucrat, elected public representative. Having a family to feed and increasing needs to satisfy, anchors his political decisions, if any, to the current trend of accepted thought and public opinion, both of which are easily manipulated by the most resourceful of media corporations at the given time. Armed with wide, continuous coverage, a constant barrage on a given theme, a sound understanding of the psychology of the masses, it is only a matter of time until any agenda suiting the manipulators becomes a widely accepted notion. Of course, anyone is free to think what he wants, or vote the other puppet at the next election. However, opinions are what they are, ephemeral and inconsequential, momentarily raising awareness about current events. The promoter of the heretic opinion is then countered with the full weight of the mainstream media, an inquisitorial retribution, a defamatory label that sticks. The individualist becomes an outcast, loses his salary, and may face a prison sentence. Democracy, a token name bereft of its original meaning, a far cry from the precept left to us by Greek antiquity. Democracy today, the counting of heads like sheep, is an illusion, a lie. Democracy, a few votes, mean total power or total zeroity. Ultimately, all seemingly different contenders to public office are manipulated by the same financial elite. Most of today's political parties, ideologies, and economic systems are controlled by this financial elite. In fact, communism and financial capitalism meet at the highest point. The apex of communism today is nothing else than the multinationals. Huge conglomerates with an unseen board of directors, apportioning increasing majority shares in all sectors. And below them, far, far below them, millions of shareholders blind as to the operations. The quarterly document denoting the dividend keeps the millions contented and quiescent. Today's multinationals are nothing else but the meeting point, the convergence, the apex of both communism and financial capitalism. So just as the media, international finance, and science can be easily manipulated, every critical public facet can and will be sold to the highest bidder, namely this financial elite. Evidently, sooner or later, one will have to come to terms that we are already living under an empire, already witnessing and serving a globalist financial empire, led by this same financial elite, a fraction of the people at large changing masks as they deem fit to avoid blame and scrutiny. Dig deep enough and you will know. Evidently, the so-called civilized and modern world is still vicious and primitive, still a predator-prey relation, only more subtle. Since the Industrial Revolution, the pace of life and progress moved quickly. We are rushing headlong, but headless. One must stop and think, and not let the norm think for us. Homo, quo vadis? Over generations, the majority of our people think only about material acquisitions. Increasing one's wealth has become the priority objective, the supreme value and virtue of the nation, more still, of life itself. Soon, childhood dreams and higher aspirations become a distant memory. Day after day, a whole lifetime will come to pass, and then we finally wonder, what have we essentially achieved? What are we leaving behind? What was the purpose of it all? Was the daily striving for ever-increasing needs the whole objective of life? When even the little free time we have is poisoned by financial worries? When every business success or failure depends on the fluctuations of the international market? Can one really be certain of lifelong security and comfort? It's high time to go back to basics, to lift our head and raise our sights, assume our responsibilities. We possess neither the luxury of time nor infinite natural resources. Inactivity and non-commitment are no longer an option, neither is ignorance bliss. This system of gross inefficiency, confused priorities and anti-nature spirit will inevitably burst and destroy what was carefully sown throughout evolution, over millions of years. Having encapsulated the current worldview, we can now move on to the idea of Imperium Europa, now explained in this third and final chapter. Why is Imperium Europa the only viable alternative to this present financial empire? Imperium Europa tackles the root causes, not the effects of the myriad problems confronting us. The people will no longer be considered as consumer commodities. Instead, the person is elevated above economics, finance, and social issues. Spirituality, high culture, and high politics assume priority over all mundane issues. Thus, all the so-called pressing problems of today will pale into insignificance. It is only when we accept this present world around us to be the norm that progression and radical change seems difficult or dreamlike. It is, however, entirely up to us. The universe is expressed in duality, and Imperium Europa is a duality. Imperium and Dominium, two distinct but complementary natures, when harmoniously combined, create a union of synchronicity, synergy, far exceeding the potential of each. Mind and body, male and female, complementing each other. Imperium, masculine, strong, inflexible and principled, protects, upholds the Dominium, feminine, receptive, flowing, nourishing and preserving. Imperium, the masculine side, an elite of 2 million men. Unlike today's hidden minuscule minority, our elite remains open and unashamed to the public eye. Our elite, custodians of the Dominium, will be the living proof that there is no separation between creator and creation, that man can and will soar to previously unimagined heights. Imperium is solely concerned with 5 prerogatives: spirituality, race, high culture, high politics, and territory. All else falls under the freedom of the Dominion. Spirituality. Gone are the days of forced dogmas, imposition, torture, both mental and physical. Religion will never again serve as the basis of war and division. All our brothers and sisters in the Dominium sphere are free to hold any belief that God or gods internalize living connections within and not superficial husks without. The Imperium elite, however, is duty-bound to uphold a pro-nature, pro-life, pro-survival belief, interpreting cosmic and natural laws as they are, forging a science of the spirit, since both science and spirituality at the highest level are one. This first prerogative might not seem like a very tangible one, however, is at the apex of elite responsibility, wherein our nature, destiny and potential will be continuously improved, elevated and revealed. Race. The Imperium is for Europids only and none else. The history of humanity is littered with the debris of civilizations that have disappeared through miscegenation. Race is the golden string that should be kept unbroken, generation after generation, to evolve itself as nature ordained. For how can we build our future without a rooted memory of the blood that goes back millions of years? We are therefore proud to uphold our racial identity that has been bequeathed by our ancestors since time immemorial. Globalization not only promotes, but forces race mixing. Our European high culture only fits our cousin peoples, the Anglo-Saxons, Teutons, Slavs and Latins. For how can one expect the successful integration of inassimilable minorities who are purposely lured into Caucasian heartlands? How can we egoistically expect them to adapt after they themselves have been torn from their own way of life and genetic adaptation generation after generation? Pseudo-intellectuals distort and confuse scientific facts to rope in our young students into this globalist, multiracial madness. They cite the worn-out cliché that the white race possesses just 1% genetic difference from the blacks, and thus we are assimilable. Perhaps we could also assimilate with the chimpanzee, since the genetic difference here is a mere 2%. Or perhaps with a cat, percentage difference at 10%. Or why not with the nematode worm, a difference of 25%. One only has to refer to recent history to see how this system has failed utterly and completely. How this equality dogma has brought our race and civilization to the brink of extinction. High culture, the environment of the mind, a direct cause of the human condition and civilization, a reflection of society's progress and creativity. As people today look up to the degenerate idols of the present, allowing their lives to be sunk into increasing superficiality and perversity, consequently narrowing their frame of mind and potential, these same idols will soon be replaced by the elite of the future, guiding the Dominium into ever higher levels of achievement. Our elite, to whom money is no allure, will set an example of excellence in all fields of endeavor, exhibiting the finest expression of life to the benefit of all. High politics concerns the relation of the Imperium with the outside world. High politics is in the hands of the elite. Any trade with those outside the Imperium will consist solely of food barter. Our food surpluses for whatever we need. In this way, avaricious middlemen will not be able to trade our survival by supplying our innovations, technologies, weapons to our enemies. Elite, as true statesmen, protectors and heroes of civilization, wherein our people's destinies lie in able hands and not abandoned to the mercy of dilettantes. Elite, subrogating the philosopher kings of old. Territory, protected and never ceded, sealed borders, 2 white rings north and south of the equator, including the terraforming of the moon, Mars, and beyond. Space will be our preserve. Territory, as living, breathing space, free and expansive, where the Dominium can truly express its potential unhindered. Dominium, the feminine side, symbolized as the lifeblood of the Imperium, the wine contained by the protective chalice, the gene pool out of which the elite is replenished through the best from the best, within the Dominium chosen from top, not the bottom. These individuals, in effect, elect themselves through meritocracy. As the nation-states gradually dissolve, hundreds of regions will come out into their own. Regions as old as man himself, free, retaining their diverse ethnic variances, customs, traditions, dialects, regional laws, political and economic systems. This is true diversity. This is true multiculturalism. There will be free movement amongst the regions, and Europids will be free to choose and live where it suits them. Let us then see which system runs best. The Imperium does not impinge on the freedom of the Dominia, for life is inherently dynamic, and when not interfered with, everything returns to its innate equilibrium and harmony. Man and woman born free, educated to take care and guide their own lifestyles. Complete individual freedom, complete responsibility. No gender distinctions within the Dominium. People free to seek their inclinations and rise to any level they aspire to. However, there will be no place for the woman in the elite army, never exposed to the danger of warfare. For it is sheer madness to place the bearers of the race in combat situations. We hold our woman in awe and respect. The role of the Imperium in relation to the Dominium is to guarantee security, autonomy and freedom. No region would be allowed to attack other regions for whatever reason. Never again brother against brother. Never again a blood-soaked Europe. Never again. Magna Europa est Patria Nostra. One way for the implementation of Imperium Europa are the MEP elections 2014. This is a clarion call for all pan-European movements within this mercantile EU to contest, win and lead the new emerging Europe, Nova Europa. This will be a formidable grouping of patriots who have enough stature and vision to leave petty differences aside and not let our enemies divide and conquer us again. Our very survival is at stake. Imperium Europa was launched end December 2012 at a sacred spot, a solar temple thousands of years old, on the precise day and time of the transition from Kali Yuga to Krita Yuga, from an age of darkness, destruction and deceit into this Aryan age of light, creativity and noble truth. Hail, Imperium Europa!